Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my sponsors, BCW Supplies. Use code POPANIMECOMICS to get 10% off your order. They sell bags and boards, and inflation sucks. So please save yourself some money and protect your valuables, because I like my comics protected, and so should you. It is an affiliate link, so it does support the show, but it also gets you a nice discount. And I just used it on a $200 order, and I saved myself $20. And well, $20 is $20, and it's even more than that right now because of inflation. So please go use that code right there, Anime Comics. Also, this is my T-shirt. Go buy it on Redbubble if you're a Gundam fan, Taco Bell fan, most interesting man in the world, and whatnot. And go support that right there. And it's a cool shirt. You could also get it in a mini skirt if you so choose. And I approve of all different types of clothing. So please, whatever fancies your boat. And if you do get it in a mini skirt, please send me a picture of it, because I do think it's funny. And so I'm not going to bore you with the rest of my sponsors here, because I have with me comic creator and comic advocator, Mr. AnderSiN. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, I am excited because I've been wanting to do this for almost a year now. And I think you had COVID, or somebody in your family had COVID, and then it just didn't happen. And then life moves forward. And then I think your project just didn't expire. And I'm like, oh man, you don't have anything going on. And then obviously you did have a project, and then I might have had something going on. But obviously I'm glad that we're doing it right now, very much, because I've been wanting to have this conversation for I think almost a year now. And so you currently have, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is the second chapter of the Expanse comic.
Well, it's our third book that gives a second chapter to a lot of stories. So Continuum Comics, where we're expanding what you've already seen with Wolf and Fox, with the Redeemers, and even with Hero Wings. So those all got expanded. Fish Lee came along with us, and he gave us his Green Zone book that he does. And we're excited to be. Fish Lee's someone who's I've been a huge fan. He's a friend. I love what he does. And then we even introduced a new character. So it's everything that the Continuum is supposed to be, bringing creators together, showcasing different worlds. I always call it a pilot book. Like everywhere there's pilots except in comics. So I wanted to create something that everyone can make a pilot comic book from now on.
Yeah, and let's even talk about that a little bit, because where did this idea come from? Because obviously I view this, and feel free to disagree with me on this, I view it as a launch pad for a lot of different projects, for a lot of different genres, where somebody will be like, hey, I like this story and this story in it, but then there's two other stories that they may not have picked up on their own. And so where did this idea come from? Because you are giving a bunch of people and a bunch of stories life. And also certain stories can carry other stories if maybe it didn't connect the first round with somebody per se.
I think it comes from all the advocating I did. I wanted to, if we were going to do something, I wanted people to take swings. You know what I mean? I've done other anthologies, and it was always sort of pitching the same old, same old. It wasn't giving someone that chance to go out there and be like Babe Ruth and swing for the fences. How is this going to work? Let me see. And then getting real feedback from us as we travel. You know, Comic-Cons are finally getting back to somewhat normalcy. They're all on top of each other right now, but they'll be spreading out. And we go to shows, we talk to all the fans, and they tell us right away. And you can tell by the pitch. You pitch a book and someone buys it based on a pitch, you know that's going to be a hit. And then that's how Wolf and Fox is going to be going to a series. But you're right. It's meant to, I always say this, Continuum Comics, I want to be the literal place that bridges all creators together. I would love to work with Scott Snyder one day within the Continuum, but we don't want to keep anyone in the Continuum. We're sort of a publisher in the way that we are going to help publish other people's books, but we want you to go out and go to Image at the same time. We want you to take that step up, and we want you to break into comics, because we know that you're going to come back to indie or creator-owned projects because you're excited about them. Look at what Scott Snyder's doing, man. Scott Snyder is so happy right now. He's getting to do all of his own stuff. And if you've ever met Scott Snyder and heard him talk, he loves what he creates. It just oozes out of him, and I love that about him. So that's what kind of we want. We want people to come have fun creating, throw a project in there, see what happens. And if we get good feedback, they get good feedback, then we tell them, hey, yo, you got something here. This is like a big deal. Like, we talk about it, and people buy books. I can tell you right now, Wolf and Fox, the pitch is a divorced duo who are trying to learn how to co-parent a city they both love. Everyone resonates with that. Even if you haven't gone through a divorce and it hasn't been in your family, you know someone it has. You've heard about it, you've seen it. And the idea of treating a city as a child that they have to co-parent, so many people can relate to that. And this is going to be a messy story at times. It's going to be one of those stories that you're going to see it and it's going to take you back to your parents fighting, you fighting with someone. These are literally superheroes who are going to have to be on a couch and literally work through their problems so they can actually continue to be heroes. Because the world they're set up in, you need a license to be a hero. Not anyone can just put on a cape. You actually have to be licensed. And that'll come out a lot in the upcoming first issue of Wolf and Fox.
So, and there's so many things to talk about. And let's just jump right into Wolf and Fox then, because obviously I came across this and I'm like, man, this book sounds awesome. Screw the rest of the book. I want more of this, because I'm a big fan of things like Astro City. I love Marvel Civil War, which is the issue of licensing. My Hero Academia. I haven't watched season 5, so nobody get angry at me just yet. It's next on the list here, guys. It's next on the list. It's technically it might be 2 now because I got Demon Slayers first. But going back to the idea of licensing and even just this idea that, well, you got 2 people who love this city and they treat it like their child, but then they just had a bad situation between them, and maybe they were better as sidekick and hero, or 2 heroes or a pair of heroes, than they were, as a couple. And so where did this idea even come from? Because it's so deep, and yet you could read it on so many levels. You could go on just, hey, these 2 people just were not supposed to be together, but they're great heroes and they love what they created and they love what they're protecting. Or you could go deep down into the weeds of it too. And so, like, brilliant idea. Just absolute idea.
It actually comes from another book I'm on, Cat Dad and Supermom, which is distributed from Scout Comics. And that is actually about my son. He has autism, and it's about him figuring out the world, his imagination and his dreams. And I can see him disappear into that. And I wrote those stories so I could bring him out of his autism, and it worked. And now he's trying to read books. Just today, he was reading George Gant's Beware of Toddler. We just got it from Kickstarter. He loves it. He's sitting there laughing. I got to send George a clip of him just laughing. And I wanted to talk about divorce in Cat Dad and Supermom. But that's a kid's book. That is a very young reader book. And we talked about it as a team, and I could feel the team wasn't too comfortable. And even trying to land a divorce story in a kid's book is problematic. Now, I'll give you guys a spoiler. And no one's caught this yet. So this is a huge spoiler that I'm going to give to you on your show. And only the people watch it will know this. No one has seen Jax's mom outside of his dreams. And that is because they are divorced, the parents. Because in real life, I am divorced from my ex. So I wanted to represent his life. We've never talked about it yet. So it was one of those topics that we wanted to get to, and I could feel the team wasn't feeling it. And going through a divorce and seeing all the divorce in my life and knowing it, I was like, well, I'm just going to break off and I'm going to make new characters, and I'll do it in that world. And I'll be able to really go in and really not worry about that, kids rating. Because, you say one thing and you lose a kids rating really quickly. So I was like, I'll go there. I'll get it out of me. And then eventually with Cat Dad and Supermom, having worked through it, the way I can and the way I'm going to, I think I can go back to Cat Dad and do the softer version. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like therapy every issue. Like I wrote it, and Mike, my partner over in Continuum, he just called me up and he's like, "Oh my God, wow." He's like, "Wow, that felt like just real life." Like, I got lost in the fact that it wasn't even superheroes anymore. It was 2 human beings just like exploding at each other in that ugly, honest way, because we don't see that often in comics nowadays. Everyone's chasing something, but I think we're losing humanity of characters. That was what was so great about Marvel back in the day. Remember Spider-Man, Wolverine, so many characters that were so broken, and we got to take the journey with them. And as we took
it goes back, I'm a big DC guy, Batman: The Dark Knight by Frank Miller. You got a broken Batman. You got Catwoman, and I'm pretty sure this is not a kid-friendly show on my show. Hopefully everybody's well aware of that. But it's the idea that, I mean, Catwoman's running more or less a brothel to some degree in the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Returns, and those entire books. But these characters are broken people, and they're also trying to regain it. I think that's something that's missing. And obviously, in this book, in particular, Wolf and Fox. I mean, these two characters, I think that they have some feelings for each other, but they also hate each other. Yet, and then now they have to figure out how to work, and it's such an interesting position because obviously, I mean, I was in a relationship. It did not end well for a variety of reasons. Partially, it was my fault, but I have not gone through a divorce or anything like that. I'm 29, so I have time. Everybody, I got time to mess it all up.
Avoid it at all costs. I'll put it that way.
it was a very, very bad mess up, and it was an impossible situation. Let's just say I failed the shit test.
Now imagine if you had to go to court for the rest of that. That's the problem with divorce, kids. You then have to go to court too.
but even going forward with this, I mean, obviously they're trying to figure out how to protect their baby. And so now it's not about their relationship anymore. It's about their relationship with their baby. And that's what's so interesting. We don't really see this in, Marvel or DC either, where, we don't see what happens when Superman and Wonder Woman are having a fight, and then how does that affect them on the Justice League? Or how does it affect Catwoman and Batman when, they're having a fight and, Batman crosses a line with a thug because, Catwoman's being difficult, or maybe he forgot her birthday and she's yelling at him, and that's what's so cool about this position is that you could read it on a very basic level. You could read it on a deeper level, or you could even go to the root of it. And so I just think it's an absolute brilliant book. And hopefully there's hope still with that.
As a writer, you never say anything other than the story is ongoing. what you've read is what's out there so far. There's more coming. And I'll be honest, this is the first time I've ever written a book where we're already working on issue number 2 and we haven't put out the first issue. That is not just the belief I have in it, but the demand of it. I mean, we've had people, we started with I think it's a 7-page story, and you see the main character on one panel. And that was it. Now this is Fox, she's just so amazingly complicated. And I love that with characters. The more complicated you can make a character, because I think it's my job as a writer to make you fall in love with them and also dislike them a little bit at the same time, just because you want them to be better than they are. Because I think a flawed hero is one of the best heroes to look up to. I mean, think about Spider-Man. He screws up all the time, and you expect him not to screw up. Like when Superman screws up, the world would be like, what just happened? Remember when they depowered Superman and he was like the bad guy and everyone hated it? They couldn't live with that. They were like, no, this doesn't make sense. He can't be that way. And we need that, like you said, the humanity of it, that Frank Miller's story, where everyone was dirty, no one's hands are clean. The whole point is that they're both wrong and they're both right. And that's really what a broken relationship often is that no one gets out of that relationship not having dirt on their hands. Everyone screwed up a little bit. Everyone crossed the line a little bit.
And then one of the things I'm going to show it again is that I absolutely just love this style of art. I love the bold, outline. I don't know what it's called. That style of art, but just the fact that you have a thick black outlining the character. And, because it just adds a certain touch to it, and it's all throughout the entire book. So what is that like too on an artistic level? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I forget, but you're the writer, you're not the artist, right?
No, that's Sergio. Mike Seeley, my partner, he did the first part, just the pilot. Now, with many pilots, just because we start in a place doesn't mean we end the same place. So we have that different artist take off. Down there. Sorry about that, Jax. His Switch is about to run out of juice, so look for the plug on the floor. But yeah, that's Sergio. Sergio does an amazing job of and I when you can work with someone who just gets it, And as a writer, the most amazing thing is that, and I say this all the time, because the big joke in comics, and I'm sure you've heard this, is that, uh, a writer is just a writer. That's it. I'm just a writer. Like, because they come up to the table, they say, "Where's the artist?" And they're like, "I'm just a writer." But I say something different. I say I'm the one who wrote the words that inspired the art. And people are just like, "Oh, whoa, what do you write?" And I'm telling you, it twists the way they look at it. And I've sold books with that pitch. So it's an amazing dance of creativity, and he does such an amazing job. That scene, that ability to show the character and her moment, and you know, you don't want to you don't want to ever disrespect your female characters. It doesn't have to be a nude scene. I have a lot of respect for cinema that doesn't instantly go nude with a character, but you get to see that she's comfortable with who she is. She's in an alley, and she doesn't mind getting dressed in an alley. And this is what's an amazing thing about this character, is that she's a little bit more free. She's a little more liberated, and I have a lot of fun writing characters like that.
It's one of the things, and obviously, I mean, it's no secret that I'm a huge Zenescope fan, and I love bad girl art. I also love things, and I'm a strong believer where, and obviously, I buy and sell a lot of Zenescope. I really don't like actually buying Z-rated covers, because I actually think it is more attractive and also a lot more sexy when a woman is in a provocative thing but still has some clothes on, because it leaves more to the imagination, and I think that's something that is very much lacking. You know, in the idea of the bad girl art form where people are like, we need a nude cover, we need a Z cover. And there's nothing wrong with that. And those have their place, but I don't like those covers the same way. I like it, hey, she's got clothes on and she looks a certain way. And now, what does she look like if she was to take it off? And so I think that scene really hits that mark where it's like it leaves me the ability to imagine, and it takes me enough, and then I have to take one more step myself. And I think that's the thing about that scene that's very well written and done, obviously, on the art as well.
I appreciate that. And I've always said comics are what happens in between the panels. That's what's amazing with the medium. Like you said, I tag you in. Your mind gets to play the scenes. You get to make the movie. I'm giving you the outline, and you wind up becoming the director, and you make these characters move. How many times have you gone to a movie theater and heard a voice, and you never thought the character would have sounded like that? Because in your head, you already assigned them a voice. They've already had a voice, and even a name. I went to a panel where Chris Claremont, someone had said Apocalypse's name wrong. And, when you go to a panel at a Comic Con, you make one mistake, the room laughs. Chris Claremont turns around and goes, "Don't laugh at them. They've never heard that name out loud." To them, this is a character that they've loved, and they've assigned the way that the name has been said. They don't understand it any other way, and I thought that was brilliant. Him saying that, and me realizing that half the time we hear a name, and you're like, "Oh, that's how you say that." I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
I mean, I watch a bunch of anime. I don't know if you're an anime fan. You know how many times I've gotten an anime character's name wrong, and I'm like, "That's how it's pronounced," and people make fun of me, and then people are like, and then a bunch of other people are like, "I got it wrong too, man." And I'm interviewing the voice of Nurse Joy tomorrow, and she's got some weird names, like the original one. She's coming on my show, and she's got some weird character names, and I'm like, I'm gonna embarrass myself heavy tomorrow. I can tell you that. But again, I think it's okay because I openly admit saying, "Hey, look, I never heard this name before. I have no idea how it's supposed to be pronounced." But it goes back to the idea that, does it really matter though if I got the name wrong? If I still interpreted the character, so it's fascinating. And I actually never heard that Chris Claremont story
Yeah.
before, so that's actually very interesting for me.
And I love, like, the purity of that moment, the fact that he was so much about the fans connecting with the characters. Like, that never left me. And I have horrible dyslexia. I can't pronounce certain. The way I read things are jumbled. So there's certain names I'll never get right. No matter how many times you tell me, I will screw it up till the day I die. And I appreciated someone actually doing that. Chris Claremont's writing on the X-Men is the reason I learned to read. So to have him, of all people, say that out loud made me feel like being a fan, being invested, was more important than being able to say a name, something trivial. Think about all the different accents we have. All, like you said, it doesn't matter how you say it. It matters that you connected with it, and you want to share that enjoyment with other people.
Yeah. No. It's so interesting. And then obviously, I mean, there's so much more to this book too. And obviously, I want to dive into, heroing by the hour. And this one is also special because I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Oh, I know what you're
I mean,
talking about.
I love indie wrestling. I love WWE. I am not an AEW fan just because I'm busy on Wednesday nights doing this show of all things. But when I catch AEW, I love it as well. And obviously, we kind of got I think a professional wrestler, or at least a professional wrestler's manager gets kidnapped, and she's got to like go find her and figuring it out and dealing with all the crisis, and it's a crazy book. It's all about like basically getting somebody who's been kidnapped to be unkidnapped. It's a wild book.
Well, it's the second part. The first part we get to our character JW, who is basically the world's only superhero. So there's this comet that blows up over the earth, and a few weeks later, some people start just doing stuff. And my actual thing is, if you look around right now, and if suddenly people got powers, honestly, Andrew, how many of those people you think would do the right thing? They suddenly have godlike powers. How many?
97% of them would completely not do the right thing. Now, I don't think they would do horrible things, but I don't think that they would do the right thing. You know what I mean?
Because they could get away with it scot-free, right? And of course, some would be really bad. So the idea is JW is the world's only superhero, but there's a catch. He doesn't want to be a superhero. He wants to be a wrestler. If you asked him, he would stay in wrestling and just take more wicked bumps. They could throw him off a building and he'd be okay. He would have fun doing that.
So he would be the John Cena. He'd be like Super John Cena, right?
He wouldn't care. The thing is that in the middle of him coming out to the ring, and there's a huge story behind that, he sees the Titantron basically falling, and he runs to it. And in that moment, he didn't know he was a hero. So he ran towards the Titantron to try to hold it up, and suddenly they catch it on live TV that he could. And from that moment on, he's compelled to be a hero. Imagine being that. Oh, you're the world's superhero now. Now you have to do it. So he kind of dragged his feet, and then they started. Well, how do you motivate someone? You give them money. So they give him millions of dollars to be the world's only superhero. And I thought that was just I love wrestling like you. I grew up on wrestling, and I was like, I want to do a wrestler comic book, but I want to do something different. And that came to me years ago. And as a writer, you keep things in the back of your head. And then one day I was like, no, I want to do this. And I was going to put it in a different anthology. And we kind of started, it stopped. And then I had this kind of leftover material, and the artist never really got to finish it. So I took it and just mixed it up, made a story. And then people like you just heard it and they were like, oh, damn, that does sound interesting. So now the same guy who's on the Wolf and Fox, Sergio Rios, is coming over and he's doing heroing too. And he has that wonderful art style, and it's so beautiful to look at. And that's black and white, and it's going to have a little bit of color like Sin City. And I'll tell you this, there's a reason for it. I'm just not going to tell you why. You're going to have to wait, because eventually when you figure out the reason, you're going to be like, oh, shit. And that's my job, is to get people to that moment. Like you, I know you're a comic fan. I know you get excited, especially being a wrestler. How cool is it when someone shows back up after injury? How cool is it when someone shows up to bail out? Because I know a lot of creators and a lot of fans are always like, well, where are all the other superheroes in the world to help them out? I solved that problem. It's only him. There's no one coming. So if he's having a bad day, there is no backup. And I thought that was kind of interesting. How would that world be? Because I'll be honest, looking around today, I'll tell you, not many people would put on a cape and be a hero. They would do what they wanted to do and try to force what they wanted on the world. So we'll be seeing.
You're a lot more pessimistic than I am. I mean, I think that certain people would be heroes, but I also think that they would also be very much self-motivated heroes. And I may or may not be working on something that's dealing with that.
Well, just think about that. Does that make you a hero if you're doing what you want? Doesn't make you a villain, but it does. Like, Batman's not a hero. Everyone gets that wrong. Batman's not a hero. He's a vigilante. He will tell you he's a vigilante. He has no desire to be anyone's hero. He wants to be the thing that you pee yourself when you see him coming if you're doing something wrong. even if you're not doing something wrong. My kid at 3 years old saw his first Batman at a Comic-Con. He might have even been 2 at this point. Saw this, and he looked really like Batman. The guy came running up to him, and my kid, named Damien, his middle name is Damien, turned around and ran away from him. And everyone looked and goes, why is he running from him? I was like, because every time he's seen Batman, he's beating the crap out of someone when they're walking up. I was like, that kid's got good instincts because the Batman was walking right towards him. I was like, that's what you do when you see Batman walking towards you. You run.
I'm a huge Batman fan, and then my favorite Batman story is that. So I was fortunate that I went to Manhattanville in New York, and Paul Levitz teached a class there for writing for the media, because he wanted to. And so on graduation, I love the Dark Knight, and so what I did is that I spray painted the Batarang essentially, like that Christian Bale uses on it. But what I did is that instead of painting it like spray painting it in silver, I put something on top of it in the symbol of the bat and I sprayed around it. And then I tweeted out on graduation day, and Paul Levitz likes it on Twitter, and then Scott Snyder retweeted it. And I'm like, oh snap! Like, so I love Batman, so I will run 2 Batman.
Batman's one of the best creations ever. Credit to Bill Finger for how he made that character really pop. And of course, he didn't get enough credit, as it were, but like what Frank Miller does with them next, even Scott Snyder like really peeled back, and we got the thing he did with Damien. Oh my God, like that's why my kids named Damien. I love it. I love the Damien character in DC. I'm like you. I'm just that is one of those. There's 2 projects I want to work in that are dream projects. Anything Batman, don't care what it is. Just let me touch the Bat family and anything X-Men. I'll even do like the X people, whatever you give me, I'll take and I'll run with it.
I would like to work on 2 projects, and they're weird projects. Teen Titans West, because I think you can do a lot of things with Teen Titans West that has not been done before. And I would love to do something like New Mutants Island, like Civil War New Mutants Island. I think you could do a lot with that too. But if I got 6 issues on Teen Titans West, I would never work for DC ever again. I would give everything I got in those 6 issues, and it would be the best 6 issues in comics for that year, hands down. I have it mapped out exactly how to do 6 issues. It would have to be DC Black Label, and boy, am I going to cross lines with Teen Titans West. But I have the story. It's brilliant what I would do, but that's in the vault.
I like it. Teen Titans West has never really. I mean, you only see it on Teen Titans Go most of the times. That's brilliant. I love creativity. I know a lot of people get really iffy about changing up characters and doing that stuff. Who cares? Enjoy it. Make the new stuff. Let's see what creators have. Now everything's multiverse where we can do anything we want. I'll tell you, like I'll go to DC and anything they tell me to do. They give me Aquaman, I'll make him afraid of water. That's what I'll do to Aquaman. I'll make him afraid of water and then make him a mercenary.
Best thing that ever happened is Aquaman 1, New 52. He's in a diner and he's eating clams. He's eating clams, and people are like looking at him, and then the woman's talking about not being able to afford college for her kid, and then he just drops like 2 gold doubloons, and he says, "Will this be enough?" And then he just leaves. It's like the best scene ever. It's like I think Jeff Johns wrote that, and I'm like, that's brilliant in so many ways. Just utterly brilliant in so many ways.
New 52 didn't get enough of the love it deserved. There was some really good stuff in New 52.
Very much so. There was, I mean, Batman was great. Aquaman was great. I enjoyed Red Hood and the Outlaws and like this stuff. And that Starfire scene, that's arguably one of the hottest DC comic scenes of all time.
Yeah.
For popping out of the water, I mean, if there was ever, Georgia, Cruising, that is the song for Starfire. If you listen to Cruising, popping right out of the South Georgia water, that's that scene. I'm telling you.
That was like literally fire. I mean, I remember opening that up, being like, "Oh, damn!" The one thing I did have a problem with from the New 52, and we can get back to it, was when Batman and Catwoman had sex on the roof. I thought it was too explicit. And remember, I'm a guy who writes a book about the BDSM community. So like, this is me. I'm not shy, but I just was like, wow, that's a little much. And like we talked about shadows and all that. Like, show me a shadow, but like she was right on top of him. I was like, damn. I mean, did I enjoy it? Yes, but that's not what we're talking about. I just thought across the line because I thought about like a younger me. So I got into comics when I was 12. That might have been too much for 12-year-old me. Okay, not 12-year-old me, but you get my point.
I got in at 11, and my first book was Teen Titans. And it was the Teen Titans where basically the first 6 issues, Deathstroke shoots Kid Flash in the leg.
Oh yes, I remember that.
So meanwhile, for those who don't know that, the bullet scene wasn't bad. It was the idea that Kid Flash was healing so fast that they had to keep reopening him, and every time they tried to reopen him, he would heal because his metabolism works. And now you got a crazy scene where a guy is shot with a gun, and if they don't get the bullet out, it's going to cause more damage. But every time they try to open him up, he's bleeding out, and then it heals, and then he's bleeding out. And it's this crazy surgery scene. And I'm like, oh. And I mean, I was reading manga. I was reading Love Hina at that time. And so I was a corrupt kid. I'm 29, everybody. So this is not that long ago, technically. And man, my childhood was full of things that I should not have been privileged to. And my parents just said, go right ahead. And I turned out great. But I could definitely see that right on top. If you got like a 12-year-old or even a 13-year-old, you don't want to put on the brakes.
That was a bit much. That was the beginning of the Black Label. Right there on that rooftop. That's where they were like, we're gonna have to show Batman's junk at one point now. That was where the idea came up, where we got to see Brucey.
Yes. But obviously, now that we've taken that detour, I do want to get back to your book, and you got the Redeemers up there as well. And this is an interesting one because I think they're getting their own series, right?
They are going to get their own series in 2023. We were going to show this character Eclipse, who had his own first issue. And the first issue of Eclipse is mostly about these Redeemers. And it's about this team hunting down this character who you don't really get to. If you haven't read Eclipse, read it. But I'll tell you this, you're going to learn a lot about the Redeemers and Eclipse, but you're not going to see much of Eclipse. And the whole point of the Redeemers was, sorry. There's a kidnap warning. We hope everyone gets okay. My son might run in because the sound upsets him. It's okay, sweetie. Just hit your phone. There you go. So with the Redeemers, they're basically good guys. They are good. There's like 2 who are really good from Scotland and Ireland. They fight about it. They're twins, and they're fighting over where they're from because they're technically both Irish and Scottish to the mother and father. And one takes on one, the other one took on the other, and they're sibling rivalry, but they're really heroes. But they have the attitude more of a vigilante. And then you have someone who is burn noticed, who's coming off of a bad military experience, and he spent some time in the brig, and this is his way out of the brig. And then we have Ruby Sapphire, who's definitely got an attitude, never had a good life, never had a good upbringing, has kind of survived by doing what she had to do, and she got into some trouble. And now we are where we are with her, where this is her way out. So the team itself is you have these characters who are literally trying to redeem themselves and become like the heroes they want to be. Because this is a world where while it hasn't come up a lot, there hasn't been a lot of information. Oh, Jax, it's okay. The kidnapping thing. Come here. It's okay. It's just someone got kidnapped. It's all over now. See?
Daddy, I need help.
You're okay.
I need
Go look. It's back. It's regular TV. Sorry about that. Those sounds because of his autism triggers him.
All good.
Dad,
Yes, baby.
I need help. And take it off.
It is off. Go look. I promise.
Help me.
Jaxie, it's okay. Go look. I hear it. Your thing is back. Sorry.
You're good. It's all good.
Kidnapping. I hope the kid gets found. I hope it's never bad. But those sounds definitely can affect. You can see. No. Jax, come here. Come here.
Okay.
Turn off the TV and turn it back on. It'll fix it.
I
Okay?
can't find a rainbow.
Go, yeah, go find it. That's your problem, not mine. So anyway, the Redeemers are trying to actually redeem themselves and become the heroes they've always wanted to be. Because everyone, I think, even Capone thought he was a hero. The gangster Capone thought he was everyone wants to play the hero. Even the villains don't want to accept their villains. The most vicious villains in the world, Mr. Sinister, Thanos, Lex Luthor, all think they are the hero that is
Thanos definitely thought he was the hero because all he wanted to do was like get what he wanted, and he's like, I finally got peace. I eliminated half of the galaxy. I mean, it's that scene at the end of what, Infinity Wars? He's just sitting there, or I think it was Infinity Wars was the third one, right?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
He's just sitting on the planet and chilled out, and like sort of jamming out, like.
Dad,
Say hi.
hi.
Go be on your tablet. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Like they're really hitting it up. It sounds like there's something seriously going on. I don't know what's up, but like that's the third time it's going off. So I apologize to everyone who's listening with headphones. This is the new alert systems that they're using these days. So I do apologize, but Jax will come. It's okay, honey. This is being a single dad. If anyone wants to know, this is exactly what it's like to be a single dad. We have hours of nothing going on. The minute I go on a video, everything goes wrong. Come here. Go on the bed. Be on my phone. Go. Yes. 1, 2. Go relax on my bed. On the bed. Come here. You want to sit on my lap while we talk? Relax. So, yeah, he gets freaked out. It's the loud sounds are making him. He thinks that because of the hurricane, the poor kid went through, what was it? Irma down here. And we lost power, and he would hear things like that, and it just scares him now. So, but we all have that. I don't like the sound personally. So the Redeemers are trying to make the world a better place in a world that's kind of like ours. It's not perfect. It's screwed up, but everyone wants to make it better for everyone else, right?
Yes, very much so. And obviously, I mean, I'm not going to push too hard into this because they're going to get their own thing. This is almost a launching point for them. And it's so interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
For them. And then obviously there's another, I guess, here. I think there's 2 more in here. So obviously there's Hero for the Hood. And then it's slash influencer. So what's that one about? Because this one's also very interesting where I think a hero kind of goes and is now representing an underprivileged neighborhood and protecting them and dealing with crime.
I grew up in Queens, New York, and I grew up in the melting pot of the world. That's the word. That's what people call it. And you see a bunch of things. And the one thing that always struck me as odd is that the bad guys, the people who are quote unquote bad guys, aren't always bad. They're under circumstances. When you don't live in an area that you see crime not dealt with a certain way, and you see cops actively ignoring it, you kind of understand that they're part of the problem. So I wanted a hero that actually knew that, responded to it, and kind of actually wants to help out this community, wants to help out, and is trying their best in a world of superheroes. You know how it is. All the superheroes ignore those neighborhoods. They don't go to those neighborhoods because ultimately we like bad people to be in bad places. And he doesn't agree to that. He doesn't think that the people in there are bad people. He thinks that the people in there are forced into situations. And if you ever grew up in a bad neighborhood, you know that that's the truth. You know, there are people who have to help their parents make rent, have to deal with all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. In which they, obviously, people have to make tough decisions, and people, sometimes, for lack of a better word, and I don't mean to, and this is no means of encouragement, but sometimes you have to steal. What happens, and it's unfortunate. And obviously, when you go into bad neighborhoods, or even when you live in a nice neighborhood, and then it starts to become bad. I mean, obviously, I lived in DC in my last year in DC. the neighborhood started getting rougher. And, you can tell and you start seeing things. And, it's kind of crazy. And obviously, I mean, I'm not saying I lived in Queens or anything and I lived it every day, but you go outside and you start seeing it a little bit. It's kind of crazy.
And there's a lot of people who are just misunderstood and they're just self-expressing. And you have that police element, like how the police handle certain situations we've learned causes more problems. So it's going to be an interesting take on it. It's co-created by me and Mike Seeley. And I'm going to use a lot of what I've seen in the neighborhood. He's going to a lot of the conversations he's had. So we're excited about this because again, I've never heard of, besides Luke Cage, but Luke Cage kind of never really dealt with it as much. I don't think he dealt with it in the way that felt genuine a lot of times until recent years. Yes. And I know, hat off to Victor Dandridge, who's done The Samaritan, which is an amazing book. But I felt like this was something I wanted to create. I wanted to talk about it. And I wanted to show what a hero could do in a neighborhood like I was around and I got to watch growing up. And I just think there's something special about seeing what we don't normally see in our everyday. Like you said, when you start to see it, you start to understand it. And it's, wait, maybe this isn't what I thought it was.
It's very interesting. I don't know if you've ever lived. I mean, I lived in an apartment building and I had a neighbor who was mentally ill. No question about it. And obviously, and I don't mean to like disparage and it comes off that way. That's not my intention. But you could tell that she had some serious psychological problems and that, something was, and it was a real disability. And so when you start seeing it and you start seeing how she's interacting with the neighbors, not me, because I was quiet, I kept to myself. But even like when she was having an issue, like she would almost like hyperbolate and go ballistic. And like when she was even dealing with the police and very, and I'm going to be very honest. And I made sure that, I kind of didn't want anything to do with it because I'm like, look, I don't want any problems. And, it wasn't mean, but you realize and you start seeing things. And then, she got into a fight and then a bunch of other stuff happened. And like the point is that you really see that and you're like, oh, okay, that's what this looks like, and when you see it on the street, it's different than when it's your next door neighbor. Tremendously. And then, I don't think she was necessarily a criminal or she was stealing, but you definitely see that. And then you say, okay, now I understand how somebody can get themselves into a circumstance. And I think a lot of people don't see that until you're in it. And you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, life's not always simple and not everyone gets a simple ride. So that's, like just the idea of, again, a hero being in these areas. And for this takes place in Queens, in the neighborhoods. Like, is this hero going to harass people because they're smoking on a corner and just hanging out? No, that's not what he's there for. But he is going to try to stop crime. And, it's messy. There's always going to be two different stories and the way that people look at him. And we're going to dive into that. And we're really going to look at it because
he might get it wrong sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the thing, though, is that I think that's the other thing that's interesting about all these, things that we're dealing with is that these heroes are human, and all these people are going to get it wrong, and I think that's almost the problem with DC and Marvel right now, and even sometimes when Image does a book too, that's a superhero book. It's like it's okay to be wrong as a hero, In fact, I would rather a hero be wrong 30% of the time, because that means they're more like me. I mean, I'm sure you're not right all the time. I mean, maybe you are, but you're perfect. But
last thing I am is perfect. Just ask around. I will say this though, DC, let's not forget, are the ones who had Batman actually running the mob. We forget about that a lot of times, but he was Matchstick Malone. He was literally making sure, because he understands the importance of having.
You can't talk about this. You're gonna break my heart, man. I love spoiler. I love spoiler. I love it. I love Stephanie Brown. I cried when Stephanie Brown got killed. I cried. Okay. War Games, brilliant.
Yeah. And I grew up on like that storytelling to me. Like, I know a lot of people like more art nowadays. No, I'm a Chris Claremont, Frank Miller fan. Give me more dialogue. Tell me what they're thinking. The idea that the thought bubble is missing from comics right now breaks my heart. I learned so much about learning to keep my mouth shut from what I'm thinking and not saying it out loud, thanks to characters like that who were like, ooh, I think they're an idiot, but I know I can't say they're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, Spider-Man was big on that. And then Deadpool taught us that you can't get away with saying whatever's on your mind. We had great role models. I'm telling you, I'm going to start the Church of Comics. We're all going to come, not worship, but discuss. Discuss with each other. And all faiths will be welcome.
Instead of having Bible studies, we'll have comic studies.
Break out Spider-Man 125. We were going to discuss with great power comes great responsibility.
How does this compare against Superman 143? Like,
exactly. Like, do you see what the guy with too much power could have done? Let's talk about that. Superman, you gotta do better, man. Do better.
And then obviously I mean, I'm purposely trying to keep it as mysterious as humanly possible, these stories, because a lot of this stuff is jumping off points. And
oh yeah,
obviously, and I don't know if this is in there, but I know that Green Zone is on the table as well in some fashion.
it is. It's a part of the library. So we're getting the first couple of pages to bring you into the Green Zone. So you get to go and explore Fish Lee's thing. And the idea is that Fish Lee comes with us to every show we go to. And then there's a full book. So we get this into someone's hand. And for him, it's not a pilot, but it's a basic advertisement for his ongoing series, which is going to be amazing. Some of the things that he has coming out, I was watching that he's making trucks. They're going to like play trucks, 3D models of the things in the Green Zone. It looks amazing. And officially, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Fish Lee. He's a great creator, and I could not be more excited, because I'd asked him, I was like, would you like to be in the Continuum? He's like, yeah, I have something new, because I talked to him about his Hyperman. I was like, what do you got? And he sent me this, and it was amazing. And I was like, yeah, we'll put that in the library. And by being in the library, we're going to continue to promote and put these books out there. So again, what the great thing about what the Continuum really is, I take these books with me where I go, and I talk to people about it. So even if they don't necessarily buy it, they get the idea of it. And once they have the idea of it, they go to Continuum, they find out where he is, and they can buy the book from him. Because again, Continuum's not looking to be Marvel and DC. As a matter of fact, as stupid as this is going to sound to say out loud, we never want Continuum to hit. We want the comic books to hit. We want to remove the Marvel aspect. We don't want to make Marvel. We want to make creator-owned projects get noticed. We are a platform more than we ever will be a publisher.
So this is interesting, because I view Continuum and the Expanse and what you're doing somewhat differently, where I view it as a launching pad.
Oh, that's yeah, absolutely agree with you. I'm talking about as a publisher. We're not trying to own shit. We want the creators to own it.
What I view it as is that I view it almost like an Antarctic Press Exciting Comics, where it's really giving the ability to launch, and it's introducing people to something. So for instance, I'm going to be very honest. You know, A Hero in the Hood is not going to get me to buy the book. Wolf and Fox is. But then I might read Hero in the Hood, and I'm like, man, this is really good, right? But that's the things that, you know, because not every book hits, right? You and I both know that. So like, I'm a big military comics guy. So I just picked up Cat Shit 1, and I love that stuff. But if Cat Shit 1 was right next to Fox and Wolf, I might come for Cat Shit 1, but I'll stay for Fox and Wolf, if that makes sense. And that's a very powerful thing. I think people forget that in, you know, marketing, is that you could put two things that are polar opposites. So you could put a romance, a rom-com next to a heavy war comic, and you might get both. You might get one audience and be like, you know what? This was in the book. I'm going to read it anyway. Man, I really enjoyed that. And now they're two different creators, but now their fan base expanded tremendously. And so you're like, man, that war story sucked, but that rom-com was awesome. Because that also has happened too, right? Like, I read books like this all the time. Like, I read Exciting Comics from Antarctic Press, and I'm a huge Ben Dunn fan. And that's my whole thing, is that there's certain things in Exciting Comics I do not like. But there's other things that I'm like, man, this is really good. Where can I get more of this?
See, this guy over here, he gets it. He gets it. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to, like you said, put things next to each other and see what sells. Let the audience be the audience. We're not forcing them. You like Wolf and Fox? Well, you told us we're going to make it a series. And if we find out like Green Zone, we're going to promote that brand. We're going to help them get out there. Specs Thomas gave us something from Legacy of the View, a beautiful after-school special, which was in Heroics. We have a DC Initiative Milestone creator who's now working with DC Milestone, Peterson. Amazing story, Angel of Sad Hill. And that's what it's about. It's about getting all these amazing creators together and just being able to go to a show and be like, check this out. And then, I mean, there are QRC codes where people have taken the QRC code and gotten right to these creators' websites, gone to where they are going. So if you like them, then go do it. Again, continue. I want to make money for what I create, not for what other people create. I want this to be a vehicle to get people seen, like you're saying. Put them in the same book next to each other. Let's see. Because someone's going to like Wolf and Fox, and someone's going to like the Redeemers, and then someone's going to like Heroing, and someone's going to fall in love with our newest character, the Influencer. So
and even to go further, and obviously, and I mean, I'm going to be very honest. I might get shit for this, and part of my language here, but sometimes also, not every story in comics is the best story that's ever written. Sometimes a story idea sucks, and sometimes you throw an idea and nobody comes to it, right? And it doesn't mean you're a bad writer. It doesn't mean it's a bad artist. The story could be too early. It could just miss. It could be that there's 14 other better things out there, and it's sort of the last, puppy at the trot, for lack of a better word. And also that feedback is very important too, I think, is that's very important, saying, hey, look, I like the concept, but man, I was hoping you were going to have more action in your story, because that feedback is also helpful. And also, if you have 4 stories in there too, it eases up tension. I feel that, oh man, I just had a bad outing with this one, but it also doesn't put massive pressure, because printing a book, forgetting about the artist and the writing, but printing a comic can be expensive all by itself. But if you have 4 other things in there and the book can become still profitable and not lose money, it's not as bad if your story just didn't connect. If that makes any sense. Yeah, this is a business.
Yeah, and in the end of the day, let's not forget, sometimes a story hasn't hit yet, just like a B movie or a cult, or not B movie, cult classic.
I mean, I just had Ozzy Longoria, Sword and the Sorcerer. I mean, that movie is the B movie from the 80s.
And it hit, and now he's doing amazing things, and he's out there. That's what I'm saying. You can never discount something. You never know the right person. Because some comics is part luck, and if you hit that one person who wants to see more, and it turns out they work for Marvel, it turns out they're someone with DC, and they tell you not about the people in DC, but know that one guy's starting this new thing, and suddenly you're part of this new thing. So that's the amazing thing about comics.
Yeah, and also, you know what it is? I mean, there are stories that, and I'm sure you've come across this, where you're like, man, this was published 10 years ago. This thing is amazing. Like, how the hell did I miss this? How does nobody know this?
The Boys. How many of us missed The Boys? Didn't know that was coming. You saw it in it. I won't read the comic until I'm done with it, because then I'll go back and watch it. So I don't want anything ruined. I don't know if you're like that. Like, if I hit with it being there, I wait and then go back and read the comic. And if I read the comic, like with Jurassic Park, the book is better than the movie will ever be. It's just the truth. That book was amazing.
I forget the title of the book, but Astro City is based off of this book, and it's Grant Morrison's favorite book of all time. And I always forget the title of this book, but basically it's what Astro City is based off of, and it's what My Hero is based off of, and nobody has read this book. And I'm like, and then every time I recommend this book, and I'm forgetting the title, it's just slipping my mind. But everybody's like, oh my God, I read that book. And then I get DMs on my personal Facebook, and they're like, dude, this book changed my life. And I mean, the book's like 50 years old, and people are like, where has this book been? It legitimately, Grant Morrison wrote the introduction to this book like 30 years after it came out on a reprint. Like, and I love Grant Morrison's writing. And the whole point is that like it's kind of crazy, right?
Yes,
My
you never know. Like you said, we're digging up things from. Look at He-Man's come back twice now, and I love both of the ones that just came out this past year. I same time, two different versions of He-Man, and I'm like, yeah, give me more of both. So you're right, because you don't know. I'm personally hoping Thundercats will finally get the love it deserves. That Thundercats oh my god, oh.
I have to ask you because every person that's a true Thundercat sword fan I tip my hat right there has the one item. Do you have one? Do you have a sword?
Yes, we have a sword.
I mean, I have a Thundercat sword. Just in case I got to step in.
I have a whole Lionel outfit, to be clear, and I have actually. See, I dressed up during Halloween as Lionel. This is before it was called cosplay, and you were not cheered on. You were not, and I walked through New York City 2 days before Halloween, where everyone's yelling, it's not Halloween yet. I was like, it is always Halloween.
So I have a story. I used to be a camp counselor in my teenage youth, and so our, I guess, camp thing was Legends of the Hidden Temple, that game show, right? From back in the 90s. So my team was the Panthers. Now I am a nerd. My boss is a nerd. I'm teaching Lego robotics. So what did I do? I put the Thundercat symbol on my flag. And then, since I'm teaching Lego robotics, I took like Taiyu's flaming sword from the Bionicles, and I shot out 4 of them from it. And then I did it, and I painted it on, and I actually took like all the effort. And so all my campers knew the Thundercats.
Did you get pictures? Because I actually have pictures of me dressed up as Lionel.
It was just my flag. It was just my flag. That was all it was. And then and basically, apparently, like once a day, like a tribe got appreciated because everybody had flags. And so it was Friday, and so my other boss had like this like talk show at morning assembly, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, if you're into the Thundercats, they're really in today." And like my entire huddle in my tribe and like my 10 campers, they all knew it. And like you can just hear like all of them were like, "We're the shit today." It was really ridiculously funny to see me. Oh, it was epic. It was epic, and that's the Thundercat story I have.
I remember that only had 2 seasons, kids. We are talking about it now after 2 seasons, and that's all it had. Just like Firefly, 1 season got canceled. Oh my God, that got a movie made because the fans demanded it. It was like Deadpool all over again. Or Deadpool came after Serenity, right? Yeah, you know what I mean.
And then we have comics, and then what is like David Boer, who did Kanto, is writing Firefly now. It's crazy, Firefly.
Yeah, and they're doing some amazing. I every so often I get to pick up like 1 or 2 issues. The guy down here doesn't really carry it, so sporadically gets it. I don't understand it, but you can go get digital comics now and you catch up a bit. But you're right, like man, I love being in this day and age where we have comics at our fingertips, comic book stores, all these creators coming up with so much. The only thing I feel bad about is I don't have enough money to support everyone every day. I try to get as many PDFs as I can, but I'm getting old. It's harder to read. I got to use the big tablet and blow everything up now.
I mean, honestly, I'm the first person to say this. I am right now cutting back for a reason in comics. My money's tight. I also legitly in the next 8 weeks have a $750 bill, and I'm just making sure that this show and my businesses survive for another bunch of about another 12 months. And once I get through this hurdle, I'm going to kick back up. But I do read a lot in comiXology for that reason, because it is cheap and it's just, I get that people get angry that Amazon's a big corporation, but it is for $6.37. I read a lot of comics and I read a lot of stuff from like 20 years ago. I'm a huge Zenescope fan, and 80% of their library is up there, and I don't have anywhere to store it. I buy a lot of stuff that I'm either selling that I can make money on, that supports me, supports the activity, or that I like looking at. And a lot of stuff, I enjoy reading it. I respect it, but I don't want to own it, if that makes any sense. I think that's a big thing.
And I think that people get so caught up in blaming big corporations, forgetting that we're just fans. And we're not supposed to concern ourselves with that because there's always a creator out there who's created that. And you know what? If you don't like the big corporations, then Comixology is what you want because you're giving them less money. And then follow the creator you love, see if they're creating something independently and go support them. But don't talk about who cares who owns what. We're never going to own it. None of us is going to own Marvel. That's just not going to happen. So let's be
Not
happy.
yet.
I'm not.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Because this attitude, sir, is definitely not going to give you the VP position in my company.
I'll be a VP. That's fine, but I don't want to own Marvel. I've seen those fans complain about everything. You cannot make a Marvel fan happy. I don't want that. No.
Well, the second I buy Disney, you heard it here first, everybody. You heard it here first.
If you own Disney, no one can bother you anymore, though. That's the golden rule. Now you notice that people don't like when people talk about Disney. They're like, they're like hiding their mouth. I'm not going to talk out loud because we all know Disney will come and kill you. Disney.
Just ask the Jonas Brothers on South Park. That is one of the funniest episodes. So I have a story about that too. So I'm going for college orientation. What happens is that I'm going to sociology 101, right? I don't know why I was in that, but you go for like a fake lecture, right? To see what's going on. The sociology professor is playing that clip. And I'm like, I just start laughing because it's funny. My three other people who was on the tour with are like looking at me, and the class is looking at me, and she's looking at the entire class. Oh, just the funniest day ever. It was just so odd, but I digress.
But again, we're in an amazing time where we live in this place where we're getting South Park. Like, just think, we have all these amazing stories that we're being told, and we live in a golden generation to be a nerd and a geek. I call myself an escape dealer because that's exactly what I give people, an escape from reality. Because when I was coming up, I needed those escapes. Didn't have the best home life growing up. I was struggling with problems, including reading. Comics, literally, they gave me a compass and they made me a better person, And I always say that, and that's why I'll always advocate for the creators behind it and try to advocate for children to read it. I'm telling you, this noisy little kid behind me, am I doing the dyslexic thing? He's actually behind the curtain here. I've been holding his hand and grabbing his leg to keep him calm. Comics got him to stop ripping up books. Comics got him to be able to be interested in storytelling. And he can now tell a story when he's just looking at the art without the words yet. He's still learning to read. That's the power of comics. So in the end, just go out there and enjoy it, man. Drink it in. There's never been a time that's so creative. TV's a repeat.
This is what's interesting. So obviously, I mean, I view anime as an escape. Wrestling is an escape for me. There's a reason why I don't want to be a voice actor because it would ruin anime. I think at some point, I would love to run a wrestling promotion. I may or may not ever do that. But me running one wouldn't ruin wrestling for me. I think it would increase it. But me becoming a voice actor would ruin anime, and it would take a huge escapism away from me. Me writing a comic, which I will eventually at some point do, won't ruin comics for me. It won't. But again, we all block things off and then keep things sacred. And I think it is very important where obviously, anime, comics, manga, all this stuff has made me a better person. It's made me a better thinker. It's made me a better investor in certain things, And I think that's the thing is that, and look, I remember sitting and then I got bullied in school, but what it is now, it's cool. And the same bullies are like, yo, you were into Pokemon, man. I'm into Pokemon too. And it's like I was at a bar maybe like a year ago, and somebody, I'm like, maybe not a year ago, maybe like 3 years ago. And guess what I was doing? I was playing Pokemon Go because the bar was a Pokestop. And me and my friend were flirting with girls playing Pokemon Go. And all these other guys were like, what the fuck are these two guys doing?
They don't know. They can't be. They don't understand. This is the new aphrodisiac, Pokemon Go.
it was amazing. And the point of though is that it's cool to be a nerd. It's cool to be in all this stuff now. And so obviously, I mean, it's such an interesting thing. And obviously, you're a creator in this. I haven't written a comic yet. I mean, I run this show and I love doing this show, and that's my introduction into nerddom, for lack of a better word. But obviously, you got all this stuff, and you're creating stuff, and you're also creating an opportunity. So, what is that like for you? Because I'm not saying you're the watcher, but you also are making things happen for certain stories to be told, your own stories to be told. And so, what is that like? Because that's kind of a weird position where you're in every little, I guess, bucket.
I think it all comes down to the little kid who gets excited when they pick up the comic and see someone getting bullied, and they associate with it, and they come back to you and tell you that it reminds them of their story with a little bit of like a tear in their eye, and they're thanking you for creating. And every step you took got to that moment. It's the inspiration you give to people with Wolf and Fox, where they feel as they read it, the rage of the character, and they're like, I understand that anger. And there are all these moments in between. So it's kind of that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get to that moment. The minute you get to that moment, there's nothing like it in the world. And that, at least for me, that's why I create comics. I give the escape to the kids who need it, the adults who want it, and the world that honestly right now should really be searching for that way out, so we can all let our minds rest and see the world that we would want to be part of. So for me, it's amazing. I mean, there's nothing like it. Forget drugs, forget drinking. There's creating comics. And trust me, it's a bad habit too. It'll break your heart. It is sometimes one of the most brutal things to be part of, especially going to a Comic-Con where people look at you and be like, do you have Spider-Man? Oh, what's this crap? No, never mind. Like that, it'll break your heart in that way too. But when that little kid connects with the story, when that adult connects with it, there's nothing like it. There really isn't. There's being a dad and then being a dad to a comic book. And they're very similar, and they're very amazing.
Yeah, no, I could imagine in which that, I only have one of those things with my show where it's like being like a parent to my show and being, a creator with my show, and also being the talent of the show too. I mean, it's a very weird relationship. I mean, I could tell you that, and I don't know how you feel about this, but obviously I ran a Kickstarter for this show, and I got a lot of shit for it. I really did. I mean, I took some serious abuse from some serious people in the industry. They didn't kill me though. And that's the problem that they all have, is that I'm far from done. If they wanted me to leave this industry, they should have taken me out completely. I'm just saying that's just the honesty.
People want that for free. That's what it is. People want you to do for them for free. So I bet you those same people were asking for your help just months before you kickstarted.
A bunch of them were on a few times. And you know what it is? I'm realizing my value. I'm also realizing how much money I brought to my sponsor, and I have a good relationship with Mixum still. The inflation sucks. The circumstance that every printer's in is not good. So I don't blame somebody in a business crisis. I've been in business crises. Other people have been there, and I'll be taken care of on the back end. At least I hope I am. But a lot of people were giving me a lot of shit, and a lot of people who didn't know me were giving me shit too. And I'm not going to name names, but it's somebody that everybody has an issue with. But let's just leave it at that. And it's not who everybody. No, and I mean everybody. This guy has burned every bridge, and there's only one person who's burned every bridge in comics. I mean, you know who I'm talking about, right?
I probably do. It's one of three people that I could.
It begins with an F.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. That.
No, I'm making sure you know because you agree he's burned every bridge, right?
At this point, yeah.
So let's just say we can speak in code. Resident Evil 4 is a good code.
But I mean, it's sad though. It's sad that people even felt like they had to attack you. Look, you can see someone having a project and not support it. You don't got to rip anyone down. That's the worst thing about creators. And he is a creator. He shows up and does all this. You don't understand. This isn't something that is easy, that is free. There are all these costs, and none of these people want to go through all these costs. They want these shows for when they're on Kickstarter. And I remember we had talked about it briefly about some people being that way. And I remember telling you, fuck them, just keep going. Like ultimately, just keep going. Who cares? They are one of 5 billion people, and you successfully funded. You got people to support you, and that's all that matters because people get it. Shows like this are so important, and I talked about this. You're Facebook proof right now. You're getting good views on Facebook, which I gave you a lot of credit for, and I still do. And if anyone ever questions, well, why would you need money to do this? Be like, well, I don't. You can pay my bills for a month, and then tell me if I need money to do this. Oh, wait, I don't want to pay your bills. See? Suddenly, when you're the one who has to spend money, it changes everything. And that's how people are always going to be. You just keep creating, dude. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise.
It is what it is. And you know what it is? I was smart enough that I had a sponsor, and I'm very open about this, where Mixon was a sponsor. They took care of part of season 2. They took care of all season 3. And this Kickstarter took care of season 4. And I'm a season ahead. So when I run a Kickstarter, and this is something that I think people need to understand on a business level, and I run a business outside of all this. I run an eBay buying and selling comics and exclusives, and you can give me shit for it or whatnot. I'll take the heat, but I charge fair market value. Whatever somebody's willing to pay is what I sell. So if somebody's willing to pay me $100 for a comic book, and I bought it for $10, I mean that's just the biz. But the idea is that with this show, my goal is not to get rich off my podcast. It's to cover the expenses so I don't lose money, or cover 80% of my expenses. Where I don't mind putting skin in the game, but I don't want to put 100% skin in the game, because I did that for 9 years. And I was happy to do it for 9 years. I didn't come asking for money on day one. I came asking for money when I needed it. That's when I came asking for it. So, I mean, but again, you know what it is? If the way I view it now, and I've said this before, it's money. Or bringing me an interesting guest, or you being an interesting guest, supporting me, or being there when I was in hell, or taking care of me, or sending me a book. I mean, Chuck, I supported Chuck's project, and he sent me an extra book. You don't think Chuck's not going to get a fast track onto my show very, very efficiently, because he didn't have to send me an extra book. It's like, oh, dude, it's going to cost me like $1 to send you an extra book, or, it's I mean, I guess those are the 3 or 4 things, but you need to bring skin to the game. I think that's the biggest problem with this type of shit. That's just my opinion, but I digress.
Everyone's trying to survive. It's just that simple. And if you're trying to do something that helps people, you can't bury yourself. You got to take care. And like you said, you have to be good yourself, or you can't help anyone.
But again, I go back to it where if you said, hey, I can't give you money today, Andrew, but I have a friend and I can make an introduction, that's free. That's the problem, in my opinion now, is that I'll give an example. My friend Ben Lacey does Shark of War. He brought me Eduardo Guzman. That was a great interview. I have a friendship with Eduardo. Great. Ben got on my show, but he made an introduction to somebody. So people, right? So if you make an introduction, great, because that's just as valuable as cash to me. If I don't know somebody and you know somebody, and you're like, hey, this person's a great guest, right? And he's my best friend. Let me make an introduction. That is supporting a show. And these same people won't even do that. That's what's bewildering to me, because that's free. And that's what's crazy.
Well, there are good people out there. Like, I might be a pessimist, granted, but I do believe in the individual. And I think and if you ever need a list of guests, trust me, I can give you a dozen guys and gals who are amazing people who are definitely worth interviewing. So I'm happy to help anyone get the show.
You get my point. I mean, in full disclosure, and I don't think you don't mind me saying this, you needed $1 and I threw you $1. And that's the other thing too, is that, sometimes I throw people $1 and you threw me $1. And I'm like, hey man, I'll take care of you. I mean, obviously, and I'm gonna be very honest, you weren't, at the top list, because I wanted to take care of the people who were throwing me $20, $30, $40 first. And they got first print and first picking. But I said to you, hey man, I'm gonna take care of you, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody who contributed any amount of money to me, to my campaign, whether you bought a guest spot or not, and this is against my own good interest, will be taken care of at some point during the year if they want to be. Some people don't want to be taken care of. Like, hey, man, look, I've been on your show 3 times. Don't worry about me. But I've said to people, I said, hey, look, when you got something, just let me know because you took care of me and I'm going to take care of you. But
That's how it works. If we all took care of each other, we'd have less problems. Honestly.
But I'm not going to force anybody. If somebody doesn't find value in what I do, and like, hey, man, your show sucks. I'm like, okay, cool. You don't have to support it. That's fine. but you can't expect to be on my show either.
No,
But
it
then,
doesn't work that way. People think it works that way, where they can talk about you behind your back and then want you when you're the minute they need your help. Oh no, we've been friends forever. I like that post you put up 6 months ago. Remember?
Arvid Nelson, who used to write for Dynamite, and I like Arvid, and Arvid's been nice to me. He was explaining to me that, man, this is kind of like tough publisher, positioning, where it's that publisher saying, "Oh, your book sucks. Your book sucks. This, man." And they're trying to give you that tough love and toughening you up. And I'm like, but I don't want to be toughened up. I want a hug and I want you to buy me ice cream. Like, seriously, like, I don't want you to toughen me up. I don't need to be toughened up. What I want somebody to be like, your show sucks, but here's $10. Like, because you've been there for me. Like, or just if you say, hey, your show sucks, that burn in hell, Andrew, and I hope your show fails. I could respect that on somebody. I can absolutely respect somebody if they hate my show, but they say, I'm not going to give you money ever because your show sucks. And I go on 10 other shows that will smoke your show. I hope you die. I can respect that. I can absolutely respect it. I could be like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Good luck. But I could respect you if you're honest. It's the dishonesty that drives me crazy.
I sadly know what you mean. Trust me, after advocating for people for 5 years, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm just saying, but I digress because I actually would rather talk about something much cooler, which is your covers and your rewards. So we're gonna go through some of this right now. I got pictures because I like pictures. Obviously there's a PDF of the TCP, which is oddly enough slipping my mind at the moment, which is not a good interview trait. So it's been a long day, yeah. But you could get basically digital copies of pretty much anything that you've done in this campaign, and it's pretty reasonable. What is it, like $3? I think for the TCP. I think for the Expanse 2, it might be like $3 or $4. The Continuum digital experience, the whole thing is what, like $20, $25? I want to say.
Yeah, and it will have a lot of my stuff. You get to choose some of the stuff, as a matter of fact, that you'll be given. We want to reward readers. One of the things that we're doing too at Continuum is we're no longer pricing if our alternate cover isn't somehow limited, somehow special, like really special, we will not price it any different than any other cover. It's our commitment to readers. We're doing the alternate covers because, yes, it helps with Kickstarter. And people like to sometimes get the bundle because that's a collectible. But we're no longer charging $20, $25. Now, if we do like something special for charity, something like that, we're going to charge more, of course. We want readers. The whole goal for this book is we want you to read it. We want you to come on a journey with us. We want you guys to help us by telling your friends, like you said, hey, you got to read this book. This is amazing. The things they said to each other, oh my God. That was horrible. It reminded me of my being a kid listening to my parents fight. We want that moment. We get that by treating our readers right.
Or if you're like me, I have a very dark sense of humor. And so if I have a friend going through a divorce, I might go be like, hey, bro, here's something that might make you feel better. I might, but the way me and my friends play with each other is it's a rip. It's a rip.
I do the same things, and trust me, they might actually feel better with the blows being thrown, but it's all about the readers and trying to entertain them and showing them that they matter. Your audience knows who you are.
This is one of the things that's out there, which is, I think, the Expanse. And then this is sort of, I think, cover A. And obviously this is the Redeemers cover. Yep. Then we have cover B, which is Heroing by the Hour. And so that's out there. And then we got this one right here, which is Fox and Wolf. And so that's cool right there. And then we got, I think the Green Zone cover, which is fun. And then we got this one right here, pretty much influencer and hero in the hood, right?
Yep, the hero for the.
And then we got some other stuff too. So obviously we got the Continuum pack, which is what I was speaking about. A lot of stuff's in there. Obviously we got the first appearance of Wolf Redeemers is also available. Also Heroics, or I'm not gonna get it right. I'm sorry.
No, you got it. You nailed it first try.
I feel better about myself today then.
You got it. Nailed it. That's it. Heroics, exactly like that. That's just me being me. I like the X. I'm an X-Men fan. I'm going to throw an X anywhere I can.
I like the X too, because I have some experience in underground stuff with people like Dennis Kitchen, Howard Cruz. That stuff's fun, and I appreciate the X on things. I really do.
It's representation of the history of comics. That before there was indie, there was underground, and that's what started it all.
Very much Dennis Kitchen, Howard Cruz. I'm sure you know both those names.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm aware of a lot of the people who just change the world and don't get enough credit for it.
Trina Robbins is another one. Hart Fisher is another one.
It's a huge one too. Yeah.
Well, what'd you say?
He's huge. Hart.
He was on. That was a fun interview. Dennis was on. Trina was on. Got to interview Howard Cruz before he passed. Very cool interview. Was not ready for it. Way out of my league. It was like my third interview in my career almost 10 years ago. Crazy interview. There's some stuff in that interview that's like first primary source stuff.
Ooh.
I mean, he's interesting. He has a daughter as a gay man in Alabama. Now that is an interesting human being. Just saying, but that's a different discussion. But Hart, that was like a 2 hour and 20-minute interview, and we didn't even get anywhere. We barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, a guy like that's got a legacy that you could talk about forever.
That's probably one of my best interviews I've ever done in 10 years, which is crazy. That Hart Fisher, unbelievable. Just the way I was on point and the way he was on point, fantastic. But obviously, there's some other stuff out there too. You got the Continuum cards, so that's cool. And card collecting is big right now.
Yeah, cards are. I remember the X-Men cards, and I loved them. I love the little sneak peeks. I mean, it's just cool. It's something. I don't like stickers. I'm not a sticker fan. Everyone likes putting stickers in. I'm not a huge sticker fan. Cards are cool. You can give some information. I'd rather do cards.
Did you also feel that, like, I hate stickers personally? I hate stickers. I like cards because I collect Pokemon cards. I collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I collect Dragon Ball Z cards. I'm into baseball cards. Zenoscope is having cards. And I also sell cards like I sell comics. And so obviously, do you feel that, there's a bunch of people that actually appreciate this stuff as well, where people already have collections of this stuff and they also put it in binders and things of that nature. So do you feel like it's also that too, where it's also almost more collectible? Because I don't know anybody who collects stickers. Right? Like,
I mean, as a kid inside, I like stickers to stick on something and then I'm done. And it's he. Like what I do with the stickers we make is like put them up in public places that I think are funny. And like, I may or may not be vandalizing certain things that I think would be just hysterical to put my stickers on, especially my free hugs and spanks one. But no, I'm not a big, like you give me a card and believe it or not, I'll hold on to it. Like I have cards from all different types of creators. I even have heavy metal cards in my collection. All the original Marvel cards, baseball cards. I even have football cards. Because there's just something about cards that just interest us. It's got the little information on the back. You get this little art, and it really is something. You can flip through a book and go through memory lane, and that's cool. And I like that.
My favorite thing about cards right now is that I throw a card up on Instagram. I get a lot of responses. And people are like, oh, I remember this. And like I'm a big wrestling fan. I have like all these like old, I guess like chromes, like Mickey James cards, and like 15, 20 people liked it. You know, I might get 5 likes on Instagram on a comic, but people are like, oh man, this is cool. Or like Tori Wilson, or like, you know, some other people, and they're like, oh, this is cool. I remember this. And then like, it's kind of cool. And people actually stop on Instagram for cards. And they're like, this is cool. So it's weird, man. Like, and then also it's like, I unbox cards with people online, and we have a great time. And everybody's having a fun time because you're pulling cool stuff, and it's very social. It's like, it's a weird thing.
And like you said, you can collect them and trade them. It's weird because you get trade, and it's this thing that becomes, like you said, a social thing. Look at all the card games that keep people happy. You know, I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't at least heard of Uno, let alone played with it. That's a card game. We love cards, poker, and all that. And when you can get a card that actually has information about characters, oh, that's even better. Like, I mean, I know guys who took the Marvel cards and actually made it like a card game where you'd fight each other with dice, and there was no instruction books yet. And this is probably the precursor to other card games coming out. Dungeons and Dragons, of course, famously. There's just something, at least for us guys, we're easily entertained.
And my favorite thing is that, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I don't know if these are limited per se, or even when you do cards, like if you say, hey, look, I'm printing X amount of said card too, because then it becomes almost collectible and it becomes almost exclusive too, because that's the other thing I love about cards as well, is that, you know, you get rare cards and stuff, and like off of Kickstarter, when people do cards, it's like they're only printing it for that Kickstarter.
I think for what we're doing with cards right now is that we're just creating the sets, and we've never really talked about it, but you don't go backwards, right? You printed it and that was it. You printed it for that time. So when that runs out, there's a new series. And by then all these characters are going to be it. So ultimately whatever was printed that time is probably going to be it, because you don't go backwards in comics. You rarely do. And when you do go backwards, because you have to re-release something or something like that, you change it. So like you said, yeah, it's not the same. The cover changes a little. You add a little color. So if there was a reprint of a card, I guarantee you we'd update it for the new information that's now they've changed. Half these cards are their origin cards. Then when you go to series like 20, you know, you're going to know a lot more about Wolf and Fox. At this point, no one has seen Wolf not dressed up in that outfit. And that outfit's not even, I'll give you a little spoiler. It'll come up. In the second issue, you're going to find out that Fox absolutely hates Wolf's entire outfit, and there's going to be a fight about it, because she thinks it is the most childish thing for someone to walk around in, the way he looks. And I deliberately wanted an outfit that I kind of wrote to be something I could throw away later. And at the point, I didn't even tell the artist that I didn't want it, and I let them create whatever they wanted. I was like, yeah, just do whatever. Throw some stuff on it, make it different colors, because I wanted it to be ripped up, and I wanted it to be gotten rid of, because I wanted it to be one of the things they were fighting about. So even little things like that, like the next time we do a Wolf card, he's going to have his actual outfit. And there's the things that change on it. You're going to be like, wow, that's kind of interesting. So you're right. When you make these cards, I don't look back. I do what I do, and then they are what they are. And then you're right. They'll be collectible, because we're going to move on. Why go back? Why ever go back when you can do something?
I mean, on my Kickstarter, and you probably saw it, I had metal cards. I had one metal card with my friend DJ. I love DJ. He has a lovely boyfriend, so unfortunately, you know, it would never work out between me and DJ. It's okay though. I did beat Tomb Raider. I want to clarify. He does a male version of Lara Croft. If Lara Croft was a guy, that's DJ's whole thing, which is put him on the map. It's an awesome concept. So he's gender bended Lara Croft, but he made her a male, and he does a male Jill Valentine. It's awesome.
So is it like what? That's bigger?
Yeah. That's funny. DJ is like thin. DJ's jacked, which is crazy. Like it's like a DJ has more muscles than Lara Croft. So it's like when you see it, it's great. But I'm trying to find DJ a female Chris Redfield.
That would work. That'd be interesting. And you know it's out there. You'll find it. It's out there. It's in a comic.
I'm going to put them together, and then they're going to go to like a con together, and everybody's like, this is brilliant. It's gonna be epic. But like as I was stating, I did a metal card with DJ, and he has half of them, and he sold out a bunch of them. I sold out of a bunch of mine. And once he sold out of his, I'm the only place that I can get it, and we did 121 of them. There's not going to be 122 of them. We might do another metal card, but it's not that one.
That's different because if you're going to go do something new, right?
And so at some point, me and DJ are going to probably do something at some point, and I'm probably going to bring in another cosplayer. And I only want to do male cosplayers because I want to give opportunity to male cosplayers who don't get opportunity. That I am absolutely sexist on that point. No. In all seriousness, the whole point with DJ was to give somebody who does not get opportunity an opportunity on my campaign. And there was plenty of money to be made, even under doing it in somewhat of an altruistic way. But again, I'm not going backwards, so that's how I view it. And if all of them sell out, and I keep mine for my personal stash, and then that's that, and I'm cool with it. But and then obviously the last thing I want to talk about as far as rewards is the grab bag, and then there's the grab bag expanded, which I don't know what's in that.
The expanded one is going to have some special stuff with the expanse included. Like you'll get, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head, you get all the covers, but we're going to give you something special from Continuum. Like you said, I don't go back and do the same thing. It's always new. It's updated. You can tell. We even put in the year it's printed, and we put it in there. So there are some things that we had, like the very first issue we put out. A lot of people don't realize this. We had a Kickstarter version. We had a non-Kickstarter version because of a contract that we had. And because of that, the very first printing of the book, which, by the way, credit to Mike Seeley, my partner in Continuum, he went out of pocket to make sure that campaign was successful because of things that happened in the background. He didn't let it stop. He went out of pocket, paid for the entire thing. I got with him, got some of my stuff, and we put that out and never made a dime on it. We gave out over, I think it was 75 books and never made a single penny on it. And we paid people to read our books. So there was a limited amount made because we didn't make the money we were supposed to. And all of those will potentially wind up in your bag now. Because me and him looked at each other and we were like, I don't want to slab anything. We want Andrew to slab our stuff. We want him. Because when you're doing it yourself, I always feel like it doesn't come off right. And when someone like Andrew's like, no, this is really cool. I slabbed it, buy it now. That's cool. When you do it yourself, it's like you're taking advantage of your fans, and I don't want to be that guy. You know, I want to tell you, this is going to be limited. Here you go. And I do a grab bag, and someone's going to get something that was probably only got printed 30 times. And that's all it'll ever be printed. There will never be a book like that again because of the Kickstarter and how it went.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be doing something at some point that's limited, that it's going to be 200 books a SKU. And once those 200 books per SKU are gone, they're gone. And there's a business play with it. And again, I mean, that's how I view it. And then also, I'm probably going to do a Kickstarter thing where there's going to be 100 of them, and I am going to shred the rest that don't sell on Kickstarter.
Ooh, that's cool. I've never actually heard that.
No. This is the kicker. I'm going to shred them at my friend's workplace illegally. So my friend works at a chemical plant, and he doesn't know yet. So I'm going to send this to him. And we're gonna break at least one OSHA rule.
There we go. We'll put it in the vat of acid, see if it comes out the Joker.
Yeah. But don't worry, everybody. I'm definitely going to film it and put it behind a paywall.
Nice.
No. I'll film it for free. You know, we'll live stream it. It'll be a good time. Everybody will have a blast. But the idea is that if only 10 of them sell, I'm printing 100 of them. And we're going to shred the other 90. But we're not going to shred all 90 at once. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to give everybody like a month on eBay to pick them up technically. And then whatever doesn't sell, but every day 5 of them are going to disappear.
Ooh, I like
destroyed. So you're going to see it slowly dwindle down. So if let's say that 50 of them sell and we got 50 left, we're going to systematically eliminate them piece by piece by piece by piece and take it off of eBay So now, day 1 of February, there's 47 left. Day 2, there's 44 left. Day 3, and so now you have a burn rate. Oh, it's a whole different way where you get a second chance offering, but it's dwindling down every single day. So every week, 21 of them are going to go away.
That's all. That sounds. I want to watch that. I want to see how that goes. That sounds cool.
I mean, I think it's going to be great, and I think it's going to be cool. I think the media by itself is going to be worth more than anything.
Yeah, people will be watching. That's for sure, certain.
I mean, I'm going to get creative. I might buy like an Elon Musk flamethrower to do one of them.
And you could get your front yard done too during the winter.
Maybe you oh man, there's so many things. Like you run a chainsaw and you destroy like 3 of them with a chainsaw. So many ideas.
Fireworks, you gotta do a firework. You gotta like do a magnesium flare and just let it go out in a blaze of glory. Playing the fireworks song from Katy Perry.
Oh my God, there'll be so many things that could be done. I could send one to Resident Evil 4 and see how his reaction goes. So many people. If you're not in on that joke, you know. And I don't believe in bullying, but that one gets a pass in my world.
Some people do ask for it, don't they?
But obviously enough of the jokes on what I'm going to do, because this is not about me. That's what Thursday's show is about. But what is next for all your companies? Because you got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, you got Comics X, Hero X. You got the Continuum. You got some other stuff going on. I know Cat Dad and Supermom, I want to say. Is it? I'm just making sure. I own that book too, which is crazy. I didn't even know you worked on it. I just like, oh, this looks like a fun book. Cool.
That's actually about Jax, right behind me, and he's going to be right. He actually came up with the storyline for the 3rd book. He will get a co-creator and co-writer credit because he's going to reinvent one of the characters a little bit, and it's going to be a cool story. So that's where we've begun that. Wolf is getting its own comic book, which we've done all of the art, and now it's just being colored and lettered. That launches later in the year for a full issue run, and it's going to be continue. We're going to try for the first time 2 different comics at once, because sometimes you kickstart so often it almost becomes a job, and we don't want that. So we're going to put the 2 books together. We're going to have that. Eclipse #2 is on the horizon. We want to do garage days where we get all the creators together with their earlier work, the stuff they never thought anyone would publish. We're going to publish it. And we're going to put it out and go, look, this is where everyone started. And then put a QRC code and say, look at what they're doing today. And then give them one piece of art that frames up. And you're like, oh, that looks like totally different. So we want to do something like that. I am trying to work on a project that brings awareness to both autism and learning disabilities. We went through a whole round of legal discussions on how best to do this. So we're trying to get that kick-started by next year. Redeemers will have a book in 2023. Wolf issue 2 will be out in 2023 at some point, along with Heroing issue 2. The Influencer has an issue slated for late 2023. He will get a whole issue run for 2023. And there are 6 or 7 other things I'm actually debating, talking to people about, or doing. Like, I still have stories that are unpublished at this point that I just have ready to publish at any time, that are fully drawn, fully lettered, and we'll go into one of the continuums that are to come. And, you always keep your ear out. Like, maybe there's something I have friends who always ask me if I want to join in with them. I did something with Comic Book School with their anthology. You never know if that'll pop up. So I never say no. I say, well, how can I make this work? And how quick can I work on it? It's always about quality and having fun.
Yeah, no, you people inspire me. And then you make me realize that I'm lazy and I'm not working hard enough.
I don't know about that. You're doing just fine.
I am doing just fine. I joke about it where it's just, I have 15 things burning, and right now I don't want to burn the house down. And so certain things in the next 2 months are going to be taken off the stove, which means you could add another pot onto the stove. And that's my whole thing, is that You know, when you're running what 10 different things, sometimes you're best to leave your 10 things just simmering and not adding an 11th. But I listen to everybody in comments and I'm like, gosh, you guys are slaying dragons. Like, I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. That's all I'm going to say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh man, it's just a matter of time when I enter, but soon I'm coming. But also I'm stabilizing my economics first, which I think it is one of the biggest things that creators need to figure out how to do first and foremost is make sure that you have electricity, internet, and food.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, I've never been without electricity, internet, or food in my life. So that's a good thing, and I know that people have been. And I do not want to be in those circumstances. Within reason. I mean, when I was 5 years old, the internet wasn't a thing. But I think the point is that obviously I've never been homeless, and I think that that's something that people, in the comic world, and that's my only advice to people today is that make sure that you could pay your rent, your mortgage, you have food on your table, you have electricity, you have internet, and that you're good before you start any project. That's all I'm going to say as good advice.
Great advice, yes.
Because while projects are fun and they're important to do and comics are a labor of love, what's better than that is actually being safe collectively. So that's all I'm going to say. But yeah, we've been speaking for a while. And I do want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself. Not like this entire thing was not a huge promotion, though. I mean, I want to make that crystal clear that this entire thing was not a promotion. At this point, I will give you as much time as you need to promote yourself. Where can people find you? Where can people bother you? Where can people go buy your books? Whether they want to buy, something a little more risque, for lack of a better word, or if they want to buy a kid's book, or if they want to go and kind of see what's going on with the, expanse and continuum and everything that's going on, and read about when superheroes have marital problems, good stuff, and where can people get all that stuff? Because obviously people love comics and people want to read this stuff.
Well, first, I want to thank you for having me on today. We are live on Kickstarter for the next couple of weeks. You can get to that by going to creatorowncomics.com. That's COMIX, just like Continuum is Continuum Comics, COMIX. Again, the X represents the history of comics and the underground movement for comics itself. When the authority came in and told us what we could and couldn't create, the underground comics were born. You can get our comics at wearecomics, COMIX.com. That's where Continuum is when we're not on Kickstarter. And, of course, you can find me everywhere under Mr. AnderSiN, including AnderSiN Online. That's right, AnderSIN.online, which will get you to everywhere I am online. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today. I want to thank Andrew for inviting me. But I also want to thank everyone who watches for supporting comics in general, whether you do it through Comixology, whether you do it through a campaign, whether you do it through watching a video like this. You keeping comics alive and helping it grow, I thank you for that. And I appreciate all the time you spent with us tonight. And I hope that that something I said made you think I was smart or you want to buy one of my comics.
Well, I'm going to just continue to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it, is you have to support indie. What that means, everybody, is you have to actually throw money at Kickstarters. So pretty much if somebody has a Kickstarter and Mr. AnderSiN has a Kickstarter going on, you have to throw money at it because that's how these books get made. We're not Marvel, DC, Image, a lot of comic creators don't have deep pockets yet. I'm going to put the yet there because we can all hope for the promised land one day. But that's a joke. That's a joke. But in all seriousness, every $1, every $5, every $10 helps to get that book further along. It also helps to get the next book further along. And so that is something that you have to understand as a fan, is that money does go a long way. In my own experience on my show, when I ran mine, every $1 goes a long way. And so obviously if you say, hey, I only got $1, $1 goes a long way, on a digital level. And don't think that creators don't appreciate somebody throwing $1 their way. it goes a long way. And then, I'm sure you've seen it, and is that somebody throws $1, and then, 3 months later you're running another one, and they're like, hey, oh man, I'll throw you $20. And then somebody might even say, hey man, I'm sorry that the last month I only threw you $1. It was a rough month. I'm sorry, but I really like what you're doing. Here's $20. I'm super excited for your book, because I've seen that happen to me, and I've done that too. And so that's are you saying?
Everyone has a bad month. Everyone has a bad moment. Like sometimes we don't have the money. That's why in Continuum, even $1 gets you rewarded. $1 gets you a story, because we want everyone who supports us to be given something. And like you said, if I can convince you with one story to come visit us more often, then it's a win. But even if I just entertained you because you showed me love with $1, then you're getting something. You're taking something home.
And so that's something that I'm definitely encouraging. And I'm even going to go further and say, hey, look, let's say that money's tight. Right now, I'm very honest where money's tight in my world. Money is, and I'm making sure that this show continues, which I think is the greatest good. But I do share out as much as I can. And that's another thing. I try to follow people. I try to get people on. There's been plenty of people who threw me $1, or threw me $3, or threw me $5, and I make sure that those people who do have comments get taken care of. And obviously that's something that I'm very, aware of. And so you can share it out on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can mention it on TikTok. You put it on your personal wall, and all that stuff goes a long way as well. And so that's something that I recommend as well, and even following people on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook, that matters too. So obviously that's all free. So I really recommend people, if you can't throw money, support on social media, because you never know who's watching, and that can help tremendously. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to promote myself quickly. Obviously, I got something coming out October 5th. Can't talk about it too much. It's going to be a fun day. A lot of cool stuff's going on. If you look at the calendar, there's a big thing going on October 5th. It's not that, but it might be. We'll find out in August. But all jokes aside, some cool's dropping October 5th in my world. And then even going further, I have Buy Me a Coffee. So if you want to support this show, you like what I do, you could buy me a coffee, you could buy me a beer, you could buy me whatever. It goes a long way. It's $5 to however much you want to support me. Also, if you want to get on this show, you can solicit me. Anybody can solicit me. But I will be asking you a series of questions, and be prepared to answer those questions. So that's all I'm going to say on that point. But introduce yourself. More than happy to hear anybody out. Furthermore, my social media is down below. It's obviously Pop Anime Comics, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And please just share this video. It means a lot to me. It makes me feel special. And on that note, I have nothing else to promote. I got my t-shirt. I'll throw that up there really quickly. Got this t-shirt right here. And I got this metal card right here that you could pick up. And I have this right here. These are limited to 50. So, and I have 43 of them left. So you could pick that up on eBay. But that's pretty much everything I got. And so I'm going to give the final word to you.
Just go out there and support creators. Whether you watch his show, share something, back it, read it, talk about it, like it. Just go out there, support creation.
I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.